Thank you so much for joining us today on the Woman Magic Podcast. I am so thankful to have our guest today, Danielle. Um, this is going to be a very heavy episode. If you are a victim, or if you are somebody who is triggered by this kind of content, please look after yourself and just realize that this may not be the time to listen to it, but it doesn't mean that it's not the time at all to listen to it. So this is my formal trigger warning. So Danielle, thank you for being here. If you don't mind, just for fun, because we're going to be talking about heavy stuff, do you want to introduce yourself? Let us know like something fun about you and the things that you do, and then we'll dive into it after.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm legit so excited for this. So my name's Danielle. I am a community-based advocate at a domestic violence and sexual assault agency. I help run a coalition that deals with sexual violence on college campuses. It's called the Every Voice Coalition. And actually this week I found out that I'm on the board for an organization called Safe Bay that deals with sexual violence with middle school and high school students. So it's kind of my realm of everything. But some fun facts, I love sharks. They're my favorite. I am not into cats, dogs, anything else. And I love pineapples and I love tattoos. So
That's awesome. I love
yeah.
this. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing some of your favorite things. Sharks, super cool. So I'm sure Shark Week is probably lit for you. And
Unbelievably so. It's like a holiday for me that whole entire week.
well, that makes me happy to hear, because I've always been curious if there are people out there that like love Shark Week. So I'm glad that.
Yes, I got the tattoo.
Oh yay! Oh, that's awesome! Oh my gosh, it's so nice. And sharks and tattoos, of course you gotta get it. Of course.
Yes.
That's awesome. I like that. So I want to just say, like, before you speak and you share your story, um, I just want to like say beforehand that I think, and I've said this to you personally, I think that it is so profound that you have found your calling in this, and that you help women every single day and men every single day who are victims of this. I think that it is like amazing, momentous, wondrous. Like, I just have to make sure I say this to you, because I think that, you know, that you, somebody who has gone through it, can go into the field and help others. That's beautiful. So I just want to make sure that I say that. So I would like to give you the floor, and I would like to ask you if you don't mind sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank you. I feel as though, everything I've been through kind of, helps other survivors. I think, going through, if one thing I got out of my whole story that I'm going to share in a minute, is that I never want someone else to feel alone. And so that kind of drives all of my work. Um, so I am a survivor of sexual assault. I've been sexually assaulted 4 separate times, 3 times in college, and then actually about a year and a half ago, as of date. And I'm going to talk about my first one because I feel as though that kind of defined the rest of them and truly took, the impact on my life. So I was a first-year student at my college, and I was drinking, having fun with my friends. My friend from home came up for the weekend. She was meeting all my college friends I talked about all the time. So we were really excited. We went to a hypnotist show, which was awesome. And then afterwards, we were all drinking. And the beginning of the night felt a little bit off in general, but you typically put those away. I was like, oh, my friend's coming up. Maybe that's why, it's kind of weird, friends meeting friends and things like that. So I had way too much to drink. We were playing like sip or strip. And I'm not one, I didn't feel comfortable with my body. So I did not, I rather drink than take off my clothing. And so afterwards, I was leaving, and one of the people was like, oh, here, can you take these keys and this phone for the people that left? You're going to see them on the way out. I said, yeah, sure. I did not see them on my way out. my friend and I went back to my dorm room. Um, we changed and I got a knock on my door, and it was one of the people that we were with earlier that night. He's like, "Oh, can you get my key? Like, can you have my pass so I can back in my dorm?" And I said, like, "Here you go. Yeah, sure." Um, he barged past me into my dorm room that my roommate was gone for the night, so my friend was staying, and insisted on staying. And I was like, "No, like, I don't feel well. Like, I'm gonna throw up from drinking. Like, I need you to leave." Um, he refused to, so I said, "You got like 5 minutes, and then you really need to leave." So we sat and talked for 5 minutes, and then I was like, "Okay, like, time to go. Like, I'm not feeling well." And so he's like, "Okay, I'll let myself out." And I said, "Okay." I was like, "Can you turn off the light on your way out?" And so the lights went out, the door opened and then shut. So I was like, "Okay, it's fine. Our doors automatically lock." So I turned over. And then, it was like a minute later, I felt someone come into my bed. Um, and he told me to be quiet. He said, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, um, then I will make sure that, my fraternity brothers move on to your friend. Um, and at that point in time, I was drinking, I was drunk, and I didn't want any harm to my friend. So I did what he told me to do. Um, he took off my clothing, and I was, kind of going in and out of consciousness. And all I know is that he assaulted me. I was awake for probably 2 minutes of it, and then I blacked out. I don't know how long it was. I don't know if he stayed the night. I don't know any of that information. Um, I woke up the next morning and I didn't talk to my friend about it. He was gone. And it was a conversation that her and I just never had. I don't know if she was awake or not during this time. Um, and so after that time, I just kind of continued on with, my college experience. It was, a week before my birthday. I was like, let's just forget about it. Um, and a year later, I became like an educator on my campus, and one of the topics was dealing with sexual assault on college campuses. And so it brought me back to, that night, that moment. I decided to pursue a case against this person. Um, and come to find out that he was kicked off campus and he was not allowed back due to another person having a case against him. It was probably the toughest time of my life, never mind just the assault. I went through the pros and cons. Should I report? Should I not report? He was in a fraternity at this time. So when I did report, I was being followed around campus. I was, being bullied on Twitter, calling me a liar. And, obviously you wanted it. You were already interested in this dude anyway, so what are you talking about? Like, obviously it's something you regret. Those typical things that people tell you. And when I pursued my case, I just want to say, I'm thankful for the people that did support me and were there. I want to make that very clear. But my school, I don't believe, handled my case in the way that should have been. I got asked how much I was drinking, what was I wearing, and those are just questions that you don't ask. And so eventually the case led into the summer, and I was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I was at a point when I was halfway through the case, I tried committing suicide because it was just too much for me. I was self-harming a lot. I didn't really understand how to process the pain, and I just didn't know what to do. So, I felt violated. I was sick to my stomach. My family didn't know. So it was just so many barriers that were there. And, when someone inflicts pain on you, it's, he took my control away, he took my power away. And so with the self-harming, I just thought, okay, if I cause the pain, then it's me. It's me having control over how I'm feeling. And, every time, it happened, it was, it was another sting. Like, that was the pain I focused on and nothing else. Um, and, as for the other assaults, because of, how my school handled that, I chose not to report the other two. Um, and, that comes with a whole new set of, kind of boundaries and, roller coaster because I felt guilty. What if, he did this to someone else? What does this say about me? Um, and that was a lot to juggle, which also left, me to more suicide attempts. Throughout my whole college time, I was self-harming. So that was kind of, my escape at the time. I think the only thing that truly, kept me in the presence and grounded was my support system. So my best friends I still have today. If it wasn't from a text from like them, I would not be here. So, I wouldn't be here without them. And they made me feel like I was not alone, which is great. But, if you haven't been through something like this yourself, it's kind of really hard to understand exactly how I'm feeling. Um, Throughout my college career after that, like my senior year, I decided to take a stand and become vocal about it. Um, and I spoke publicly about my assault. And I kind of, took all that pain, all that hurt, everything I ever felt, and I pushed it towards something else, which just kind of led to my career path and where I am today.
Wow. Like, first of all, I just want to say to you, like, thank you. I personally, like, I know, like, every time that you talk about it, it's like you have to go back there. And I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you doing that for the sake of awareness. Um, I know how extremely difficult this is, especially to reflect on all of the traumas during that time because it was a sexual assault as well as, the self-harm and stuff like that, the bullying, um, the social media bullying, which, I can't even wrap my head around that, like that people go to that extreme, like um I'm thankful, and this might sound like a little like cheesy, but personally I'm thankful for shows like 13 Reasons Why, because like they show you how extreme people can get, not like to the point where it's, certain things that they did, I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but people do go to the extremes where they want to socially um, embarrass a victim. Like that is real, you know.
Mhm.
That awareness factor is something that I just kind of wanted to bring in. Um, I wanted to share in this with you. I think that in both of us kind of sharing, I feel like it kind of like we've already unified already, but I feel like it would do it a little bit more. Um, so I just do want to share, and then I would like to kind of talk about it after, like
Mhm.
both of ours. So um, I was in high school. Um, I was infatuated with this guy, and I thought that he was like the bee's knees. Literally like listen to like the type of music that he listened to. Like I was like so about him. Like literally high school TV show. Like put me in it. I'm there. So he knew it. And sophomore year, this is just to give you all a timeline. Sophomore year is where I met this man, and we were a boy at the time, um, and we tried dating, and he told me like that I was like too weird to date because I was just like very emotional, and like I wrote him a poem, and I guess like these days you're not allowed to write poems about people that you like, right? Because
Yeah.
then you're creepy. Um, but I was just like really feeling them and really feeling my emotions. But anyway, so time goes on, and I still seek his attention. Because like personally, like I was going through like the stereotypical daddy issues, and I was just like looking for that male attention. And I just wanted to make myself look better, like be better. Like I just kind of felt like when he rejected me and went out with some girl, like I was like, all right, well, I guess then I'm like a piece of shit. So like I have to make myself look better. So for 2 years, um, in my high school career, it was just around being like, I'm nothing. I need to be better, right? Come senior year, he starts paying attention to me. Lord to mercy, tell me why. I have no idea. Um, but he just like randomly started wanting to be my friend again, randomly wanting to hang out with me. And he had many conversations with me, he said to me, oh my God, this, I found this like when I went back to my messages with him, um, like last year, because I needed to close that book. He
Mhm.
said to me in sophomore year, I didn't want to pursue anything because I didn't want to ruin you. And like he said something like that, right? So Columbus Day, senior year, remember, like it was yesterday, it was a Monday, we were off. And he said to me, like, do you want to come over? And I was like, I just want you to know that we've had this conversation a million times. I've already told you I'm not having sex with you because we're not in a relationship. So like that's that. So he just kind of, oh, okay, right. So no, we'll just cuddle and we'll watch a movie. All right. So I told my dad that I was gonna go for a walk. And he lived like maybe like 20 minutes away from me, like walking. And the same exact thing that you said, where you had a bad feeling, I was walking there and it was like something like flew through me and was like, turn around. If you don't turn around, like this is it. And I just ignored it because I was like, I don't know what that was. So I'm just gonna keep going. Like this is, exciting, like whatever. Like, I'm a teenager. I didn't have a boyfriend ever. So I was like, all right. So um I get to his house and it's sketchy AF, and that's like another sign that, turn around. I had to call him before going into his house. His mom wasn't home. He just lived with her. And he had to like bring me in really quickly because his neighbors would snitch on him. So um, I get into the house, it's pitch black, like nothing's on. Um, Walked up the stairs, kitchen is right in front of you, living room to the right. I think this is insane that we remember everything to the detail, but that's what trauma does, just so that everybody's aware of this. Um, I walked forward, his room was to the right, and all I could see was his TV screen in the static. It was like static. Um, and I was like, kind of like, okay, like this is weird, but so I like laid down, he laid down with me, and not even like a minute went by. And um, he was like, I was like, so what are we gonna do? And he was like, do you want to have sex with me? And I was like, I already told you. And he literally ripped me to the top of the bed. He pulled down my pants. He was like, I'll be right back. I got to get a condom. And because of the fact, like, people don't understand this, there is not fight or flight. There's fight, flight, and freeze.
Freeze.
Yeah, there's freeze. And um, so I was laying in the bed, frozen, and I was like, "What is going on?" You know. And so he, brings a condom, whatever. And when I tell you, it was one of the most painful things that's ever happened to me physically, because he, excuse my language, everyone, fucked me like I was not a virgin, and I was bleeding for a week. That's how hard it was. Um, and during this occasion, and I'm speaking about it in a very angry way because it makes me very angry that it happened. Um, During this time, I was crying because it was so painful. And because at the time when I was a teenager, I really didn't have a voice and I was very insecure, all I could get out was "I'm sorry for crying," because that's just how my brain operated. And he went, "It's okay, that turns me on." And I literally like just it was like something overtook me, like how the hell did this happen? And because I was never formally educated on sex and what happens during sex, because I went to a Catholic school and it's wait until marriage, that's the education that we got. I had no idea. So I thought that that's what sex was for a long time. Like um it was like maybe like 6 months and then I realized it, or 4 or 5 months actually. Um, and I didn't pursue a case. Um, I didn't pursue a case because I just like I couldn't even like stomach it. I couldn't even stomach like telling my parents, like even as a teenager, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to like say it to your parents, you like as a college student, like how the hell do you tell this to your parents? You
You
know,
don't.
it's hard, so basically for like he came back into my life like right before we were graduating and he like wanted me to date him and I'm like, do you not realize that I didn't want it? Like, did you not get that? And for the next, I think it was 3 years, he was trying to add me on social media, trying to talk to me, trying to he told one of like my like ex friends like that he didn't understand why I hated him so much, like making it seem like, I not that I was lying to her, but just that maybe I fabricated it or something. So here's what ended up happening, and I actually have to share this just because of like the way that things work. Um, so my boyfriend, who I've been with him literally since we graduated high school to now. So it's been 7 years. And he was there with me like after it happened, walked me through it, like was literally there for me. And um when I told him about how, the man who did what he did, who raped me, right? um,
Mhm.
that he was telling my friend like that he didn't understand like why and whatever. I told him, my boyfriend, I was like, I'm gonna go to her house and I'm gonna put him in his place. Like I don't care. I'm not gonna call up. I'm not gonna do a court case because screw that. Like I'm just gonna get in his face and tell him how it is, and that's it. Like that's it. Like I just felt like that was what I could do. You know.
Mhm.
So my boyfriend, when I said this to him, it was like 12 o'clock at night. He was about to leave my house. And there was like oh my God, it was like a this is the end of the block sign. I can't even think about what the sign was, but so he hit the sign because he was angry that he was still trying after freaking 3 years, man. That
Mhm.
my mom heard the sign from up the block, thought he hit me, and she was like, "Get inside now," right? So I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh shit." So I went up to my house and my mom was like, "Break up with him," all this stuff, right? So I had to tell my parents why he was mad. I ended up telling my parents like what happened because
Mhm.
she literally thought that he was like abusive, my boyfriend. Meanwhile, he was just so angry about him.
Mhm.
So So that is me. I did not pursue it. I could not do it. I couldn't do it. It, and when you told me that you pursued a case, let me tell you, the amount of endless strength that you have to pursue a court case, that is that is just incredible to me because I couldn't do it. And it's not to say to the women or the men out there that have pursued and have not. I just want for you guys to know that like it was just so hard for me that I have to commend her, you know. um so I feel like the biggest thing for me is how does this problem even stop? Because you're like our stories sound very similar in the fact that we were preyed upon, you
Right.
know. Um the biggest thing that actually happened, totally forgot to add this. The biggest thing that happened after this was one of my mutual friends with him came up to me and said that he preyed upon my virginity. That's why he did it,
Mhm.
you know? Um, so for me, it was like one of those moments of like, I was preyed upon. He took my virginity. Like, it was literally all about, like, this is mine now. Which, by the way, I'm sorry, is there a virginity box? Like, do you go to a store to get somebody's virginity? Like, how the hell? You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
Like,
Yeah. I don't think hearing that, it reminds me of like, when I hear stories like this and people say the same exact thing, like, was I boxed to check off? Like, I feel like, that's what we are a lot of time, a lot of folks who are assaulted, it's about power, it's about control. And, we are, adding to the list, or we are their first like conquest. And it's sick. And, um, for me and mine was like, they thought that maybe it was part of, a fraternity initiation, um, which is awful. And hearing your story, it's similar to ones that I've heard, but also unique to yourself. Our stories are all unique to ourselves, and knowing that you went there and you already discussed what the expectations were. This is what you wanted to do. This was what we were going to do. And you get there and it's a totally different story.
mhm.
And hearing your story, it almost brings me to tears, but I'm trying not to cry on camera, even though it's totally okay to cry. But I'm trying not to. Um, you know, these are the things that we're not taught about at a younger age. My, parents tell us not to have sex. That's what we get told. Don't have sex, but they don't tell us, okay, so if you have sex, here's A, B, C, and D, or being able to give you a well-rounded education about consent and things like that. Or when consent can be given, and that wasn't discussed with my family either. It was don't have sex. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, okay.
Great, sure, all right, check. But like, what happens if that approaches me? So
Right.
I agree with you on that. And like, just so to kind of add to what you're saying too, like when you're saying about consent, I did not learn about consent until I was much older, right?
Yep.
Like,
College for me.
I honestly, I don't even know how old I was, but um I thought that it was so insane, and insane in such a good way, that like I were also worked at a domestic violence agency, and I was talking to the high schoolers about consent, thank God. Um
Mhm.
because they needed to know. Like I personally felt so good every single time that I taught a student or students about consent, because Jesus, like I wish that I knew, like
Right.
instead of, I mean, all right, great, I had a great like education, um but I really wish that they would have just, I don't know, just taken a second out to like, I don't know, like not include Jesus and everything in our religion classes, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
that's when they chose to cover sexuality. We took health. Oh my God, we took health for one half of the year, um, and that was it. So like, I knew nothing, But so I want to ask you, uh, to the people who go through this. Wait, no, before that, I think that we could, if you feel like it's okay for you. A lot of people are not aware of what, um, I think specifically a woman, because it's very hard for both of us to speak on what a man goes through. But like,
Hmm.
do you mind sharing the things that you went through, like in your sexuality, like post this? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Um, it was kind of like after it happened with the rest of my like first year of college, I did not engage in any type of kind of sexual acts. I was kind of embarrassed of my body. I almost felt kind of dirty. And I felt gross. As with my instance, a condom wasn't used, so there was just a lot of unknowns that were brought into mine. Um, and I think that's where a lot of my self harm started too. Was and my body was already damaged. Like it felt damaged. It felt used and abused, and that's like what I was good for. That's what my body was good for.
Mm.
Um, and I think when it came around to my sophomore year, I feel as though like I was not like all about sex, but like I was like, okay, let's try this with someone else, and you kind of it just felt numb, like it didn't feel like anything um, at all. It just felt like kind of useless. It brought back some feelings, um, and at one point I just cried. Um, about my body and what it was and what I should do with it. um Felt broken and I didn't know how to fix it. um and I feel like that's so hard when you've gone through something like that. And being able to figure out how do you fix something that someone took from you. How do you get that back? You can't just get back that night. You can't hit the rewind button. Those don't exist in life. um so I think that's a lot of how I felt about my body. Um, and I wore a lot of clothing that didn't make me, look, even somewhat, sexy or anything like that. Anything that could potentially, I felt like, put me as a target, I would not wear. So, the oversized clothing or, always getting that extra, bigger size so that way, it felt protected, felt safe. But like when I first saw it happen, I was wearing sweatpants and like a t-shirt. But just wearing anything that showed too much leg or too much arm or certain too low cut, that was just like something I would not wear for a while.
That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because of many reasons, but it breaks my heart that someone takes something from us, and then because we lose such touch with our bodies that we just want to cover it, like, and especially in your case too, like when you were asked such inappropriate questions, like there is no reason why any person should ever be asked, what were you wearing?
Hmm.
I could have been bare naked.
Right.
I could have been just doing my thing
Right.
somewhere. I never said yes, and that's the whole point. If you're gonna
Right.
give people rights to their bodies and to themselves, why the hell are you gonna question anything else? I mean, innately we have rights to our bodies, but like, why would they question anything else? I don't understand. And like, it's just it hurts me that a lot of people don't know about post rape. Like no one know, like not no one, but not a lot of people know about it.
A lot
You
of
know,
people don't talk about it. That's the thing.
it's true. So for me, what I did was I went to therapy. Um, it was probably one of the worst experiences because she didn't listen to me the whole time, was texting, calling on the phone during session, and then told me that I should go to group. Like that was the end of our session. It was one session, and she went, "I think you should go to group therapy because like more people would understand you." Right. So then, in trying to have sex with my boyfriend post this, um, I physically could not. Like my body was like, no. It was painful the last time, so like therefore, no.
Okay.
And the thing that like really like hurt me was the embarrassment. Like I was so utterly embarrassed that like we were doing what we were doing. Okay, we're fooling around, whatever. And then like it gets to that point where I'm like, all right, I think I'm good. I think I'm
Hmm.
good. I feel okay. And then nothing wouldn't go in. And so it freaked me out so much to the point that I went to a gynecologist, and I literally thought that like it was broken. Like I had no idea. I was so uneducated. Like I just had no idea.
Mhm.
So I went to the gynecologist. She was an older white woman, and I told her what happened. I told her, what I was going through, and she looked me in the eye and went, sweetie, I don't think that it's because your vagina is broken, because it's not. It's perfectly fine. I checked it out.
Mhm.
I just don't think you're attracted to your boyfriend. And that's what happened to you. And I was like,
Yikes.
what? Yeah. So then at the end of this session where she also pointed me to a group, because that's I guess the answer.
The thing.
um she went, "You know what, sweetie? It's not your fault for what you did, for not what you did, for what happened to you. Um, I actually had a girl come in right before you who had the same situation, but it was kind of like her fault because she was drinking. So like, and I was like, ah, like, oh, what the hell did I just walk into? Like, who is this woman? Like, why is she telling me about this other case that she like knew about? And first of all, didn't give me names, but also, and
Mhm.
second of all, like, what a way to make someone feel
Crappy.
worse than they came in, like, and like it broke me down because I was like, it has nothing to do with him, but then it made me feel like, then what the heck is the problem? Why does she have to say that she's a doctor,
Right.
you know? It's a heavy topic, man.
It is, honestly. It's just crazy that, that's what our society is telling us. Like, these are institutions, these are people that are supposed to be helping us. And they're saying, oh, well, just work it out in a group. Those people will understand you. Or, sharing information or, victim blaming. Like, it's just, it's so prevalent in our society, no matter how, progressive we get. I feel as though, it's always, something that the survivor did. It's, they were dressed a certain way, they were drinking, or what were you doing beforehand? Like, weren't you guys talking? Or didn't you have sex before? So how is it sexual assault now? I just feel like there's so much bad crap in the world that they're just feeding this stupid narrative that's been around for so long. And it's just like, how do we continuously try to break this narrative when people are just reinforcing it over time?
Hmm. I mean, you know, someone in particular was elected that said something very specific that was very demeaning to women, and everybody kind of looked it over.
Right.
um so that's it. We literally we reinforced that when that was said, like, I mean, that's how I personally feel. you know um I feel like, in regards to the narrative and the conversations around women itself, like, um yes, it has been changing, but also a lot of things have been accepted. Like
Right.
a lot of things have just been like, okay. you know I actually had a conversation with somebody close to me, and it really hurt me, because you know we and I don't mean to bring up politics in here, but we disagree.
Hmm.
And the thing that really broke my heart was I brought up the case of Dr. Ford and Kavanaugh.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, "Did you look at what she looks like? I wouldn't rape her."
That's disgusting. The fact that that was the response, like, well, she looks like that, so, I'm not going to do that. So you're saying that if this person looked prettier to you, that would be the action that you would take? Is that, like, acceptable? And, we try to get ahead and then we get complicit and we get okay with this, like, narrative. And, it's the same thing for male survivors. Again, I'm not a male, so I can't speak on that. But, they're told that, that doesn't happen to them. How can that happen to them? Males are dominant, female are not. So, that other narrative that we have and even folks who are part of, other type of communities as well. It's just the amount of discussions that are not having, but the same narrative discussion that's still happening. There's such a disconnect, between the both of them. And, it's hard to combat one another.
Amen. And to everybody who's watching, I just want to like say to you guys on my end, I know that like my facade is very different than it usually is. Honestly, this topic is extremely difficult to talk about, and like every person who goes through this, when they have to kind of bring it up, um, every person has their own reaction to it. So for me, it's anger. It's just like you know it's the numbness that comes up for me, um because it's like you can't even wrap your mind around the fact that like something that happened that could have happened, a year ago, 7 years ago, every time you talk about it, it feels like it happened yesterday.
Yeah. I hear, I think of one Rihanna song. I can't even think of the name of it now, but every time I hear it, it puts me right back to that person. That song will always be connected to, the person who assaulted me the first time. I will never, every time I hear that song, I have to change it. I can't listen to it, and it's a really good song. It's a good bop. And I can't listen to it because it brings up that face for me. And, I don't want to see that person's face anymore. I remember seeing them, I think it was like 3 to 4 years ago, um, in like my area. And I know that last time I knew they like lived out towards Boston. And seeing them in a store, I thought I was going to throw up. And I was with, my partner at the time. And he is like, do we need to leave the store? And, this was probably, I want to say like 4 years after, no, like 6 years after the assault, actually. And I was like, no, I was like, I'm not going to stop someone, stop myself from going into a store, buying things that I need to because this person's in the store. Um, so I think, in that situation, I felt empowered to stay, but it's probably because I, had someone else with me and I wasn't by myself. But I think, it's those little triggers that bring you back, whether it's a song, a movie, or, that sound. It's something I feel as though will, continuously bring us back to a certain moment.
Mhm. Amen. um I had so the outfit that I had um was a cheetah sweater and black leggings. And every time I looked at that sweater, I was like, I wanted to like throw up
Hmm.
myself. So I feel that so deeply. Um, so I'm just bringing this up because I know for some it may be movie songs, and maybe their clothes that they were wearing. For me, what I did was I threw it out. Like I wanted to
Hmm.
burn it, but I threw it out. Like I was like, I can't even look at this anymore. I will not donate it to a person because I just don't. It needs to get out. Um, you know, it really it's something that I just, for me, as a good person, and like as any other good person that this happens to, like, or any person in general, mostly it's all good people, usually it's every good person. um it's like I could never. I don't care if I was under the influence. I don't care if I was high. I don't care what it is that I was. Never in my life would I be like, I want to have sex with that person, regardless of if they want to have sex with me back. Never. You know what I mean? So, like, that part just has always hurt me because it's like, I can't imagine the other side, but then again, it's a blessing to never understand the other side because I don't want to. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think I would ever want to either, um, at all. No. Um, and going through this whole, going from, having it happen 4 times to, being at the work that I'm at now, I feel like I feel like it's like almost a transformation
Mhm.
where, I don't self harm anymore. Um, which is great. I've had moments, and you always take steps back, but I've been continuously going forward, which is great. But it's first time survivors. The type of work that I do, they can't get there. They can't get to that point. And everyone's on their own healing journey. It may take someone like a year to be able to get to the point that I'm at now, or it may take several. Um, so I think it's just key to highlight that every person has their own journey, everyone has their own healing process, and that it's okay to take that time to do that. It's okay to still cry. I still cry when I hear that song. But I've also, looked at how far I've come, the supports that I have. Like, I feel like my supportive people, I thank them all the time for being there for me. Because, like I said, without them, I wouldn't be here. And, it's always good to find, even if it's just one person that you can talk about it with, or, that one person you can be in the same room, but you don't have to say anything, but they just feel the same vibe.
Of course. I I think that it's so beautiful that you can hold space for every victim that you come across. Like, I think that it's selfless. I think that it's beautiful. I think that it's like you said, very transformational, because it's like, you know, my pain is your pain, but you don't even know that's what it is. That's so beautiful, you know. Um I appreciate the fact that you relived this with me. I know it's hard, and I know for everybody who sat and listened to us, like, I just want to say to everyone, I know that it was difficult to listen to our stories, but as we all are seeing, it's extremely essential to listen to every victim's story, so that we can better understand sexual assault and sexual violence, so that we can end it, because no person should ever have to feel like this. Um, as Danielle said, please do not feel ashamed of as to where you are. Like, if you haven't even talked about it yet,
That's
take your
okay.
time. Yeah, that's okay. Um, there are people out there, such as Danielle, who do this work, and they're here if you need them. And they take so much pride and joy in their work. I can see it in Danielle every time she talks about it. Um, and there's no shame in talking about it either. You know, um, talking about it the first time is going to, as we both know, it's going to suck. Talking about it is the first step to really living and feeling free and apart from it. It's not going to go away completely. It never will. But to be able to detach yourself from it a little bit is the most liberating thing you will ever experience.
Yeah, I feel I feel good. I fully love my body, and I feel like that's like such an amazing feeling. It's like, okay, I love me. Like, I love saying I love me. I don't think people say that enough.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that you love you. That's so cute. Oh my god, I love that. I needed that from all of my angriness that just came out. Ugh. Um, so I just want to say thank you again, Danielle. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of this. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you to everybody who sat through this entire podcast. I'm sure one person in particular is going to be sitting through this entire podcast, and you know who this person is. So thank you to him, because you're a great person. And Also, I will be posting resources for anybody who does want to seek help. I will be posting about every organization that you can get yourself accompanied with. Um, and just thank you to everyone in advance for checking that out as well. You can follow Danielle on it's D underscore St. Pierre 14,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
D underscore St. Pierre 14. So if you want to check her out, you're more than welcome to. She's obviously a gem. And just thank you again for being on the show, Danielle.
Thank you for having me. Survivors out there, we stand with you. We're with you. You're not alone. even if you want to reach out to us and you don't want to talk about that and you want to talk about your day, or, if you love sharks too, or anything, mostly sharks though. I'm always open to talk.
Perfect. Thank you again, and we will see you guys very soon. So tune in next week, and someone else will be on the show. Woo woo! Thank you again.